we started getting ready to write our third album, which would become the Idiots album, we found the dynamic of the band kind of changing because we were coming off the Squared album, which had an edge to it, and we were going into our next project uncertain if we were going to have the same lineup. And then when it finally came about that we would just be a two-piece with Jim and myself, then at that point we decided, well, what do we do? Do we keep on the pattern that we had with the last album, or do we move on? So we decided, instead of doing what we did with the Squared project and writing a specific style of music, that we would just start writing, and whatever came up, we would refine it and pick the best songs out of that and put that on the next album. And that was kind of a goal that Jim and myself had. It's just kind of unlimited. Whatever we came up with, we'd throw it out there. If we liked it, we liked it. If we didn't, we didn't. And there were a number of songs that we wrote during this time that was leading up to the Idiots album that didn't make the album because we didn't think they were good enough. But what you see as we progressed in that writing, you see that dynamic of Jim and myself really taking place, and you hear that in the album. So there was definitely a change in attitude, of course personnel, from our second album into what would become the Idiots album, and I think it worked out well.
Well, basically, when it came to the Idiots album, we just had a change with Mike leaving the band, and Mike was really influential when it came to the Squared album because he brought along with him more of a punk rock, just a harder edge. And when he left, we kind of, it did two things. It kind of allowed us to kind of go back more to our mainstay sound, but it also allowed us to branch out and do some stuff that really wasn't up Mike's tree. He wouldn't have did it. He wouldn't have went for him. So it allowed us to kind of branch out a little bit and kind of spread our wings, so to speak. When it comes to writing songs, everybody does it different, and I've heard from a lot of different, people who are in bands, and a lot of times they'll come up with the music first, or they got a vocalist who has lyrics and so forth. We do things totally off the wall. Sometimes Chris will have something, and he'll come up with it totally on his own. He may even come up with almost a complete song, and we'll work on it. I may do the same, and other times one of us may have just a riff or a musical interlude or something like that. We don't have any vocals at all. We don't have any lyrics. At other times we have lyrics. We have words, but we don't have music. So it really varies, how we do things. A lot of times, and some of the best songs we have is where we write together. We don't have anything else going on. We just come in and we just start jamming, and the creative process takes place. And that's one of the best things about it, I think, is how it is that you can have absolutely nothing, have not even an idea sometimes, and you get together and you write a song, and then you go through the recording process, and next thing you know, you get that the complete song, and it's amazing sometimes how that works.
When we started writing for the Idiots album, we weren't sure at the very beginning if it was going to be a three-piece or a two-piece, and then when we finally figured out the dynamics of the band, it just kind of opened the door for us to do basically what we wanted to do, and that was our style. And writing for this album was what sounded the best we go with, and to do stuff that was different. And there's some songs on the Idiots album that is kind of, when you hear it, you think, well, I've never heard that before from these guys. Where'd that come from? And that's basically stuff that, we just have been sitting on a little bit, and styles that we wanted to do, but we didn't get the chance. And this time around we had a shot, and so we thought we'd open up some doors that we never really explored before. And I think it shows. As you listen to each song on the Idiots CD, it's different in so many different aspects. But yet the funny thing is about us is we try different things, but man, it just comes back around to being a Liquid Promise creation. And even though you think, well, that's kind of different, after you hear it once or twice, you think, well, okay, that's Liquid Promises. But that's how me and Jim write. We really feed off each other, and we're good about, when it comes into getting our songs together and putting them on the CD. It doesn't matter who came up with it, because at the end of the day, it's Liquid Promises, not Chris or not Jim, and that's what's important to us, is having the best songs on there. And that's how our writing process always is, to strive to get the best. And I think you get that from the Idiots album.
Boy, when it comes to recording, that's tough. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes we are the one-take wonders, and we can lay the entire song down every time. Just the first take is golden. But more often than not, that's not how it works. And fortunately, the recorder's got multiple overdubs and allows us to go back and fix problems. Mike, when he was with us, he was horrible about that. It would be 12, 15 takes sometimes. But generally speaking, unless it's just a real complicated part or whatever, we can usually get it, 2 or 3 takes. More here, especially since it's just 2 of us at the moment, we've been concentrating on more is good. Use as many tracks as we can and let the end of the creative process and the mix down really take shape. And you can always cut stuff out, but you can't add stuff after the fact. So we try and do as much as we can, and then in the end, when we do the mix down, we do the final production, we try and create the ultimate version with what we got.
When ones look at the title of Watching the Idiots, they wonder, where did that come from? Is there something behind it? And for Jim and myself, a lot of times when it comes to titles, to songs and things, it's just what sounds good. And we'll shoot song titles and CD titles back and forth until something pops up and sounds great. And that's what we were doing on this project. And it just so happened to be that I went to lunch with a friend of mine that afternoon, and we were eating in an area where you could see people walking by. And as we were sitting there, he made a comment that, gee, I could sit here all day and watch these idiots. And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of catchy. But, at the time, you didn't really, put a lot into it. But later on, when I got home and looked at my email, and here's a couple more titles Jim shot me, and I thought to myself, well, I need to give some back to him. So I thought of Watching the Idiots. And, so when I sent it back, I thought, well, I like that, but I don't know what Jim's going to think. And so Jim gives me a call. He's like, that's what I like. I like that. Let's go with that one. And I figured, well, if he liked it and I liked it, that's it. We found our title. Let's go with it. So the title Watching the Idiots comes from basically watching people walk by and watching their lives. And not that we want to call everybody idiots, but that's what came out of my buddy's mouth, and it was just like, that's catchy. We got to go with that. And Jim thought the same thing, and then that's where we get the title of, and that's what's behind the name.